Oh my, Magnum Opus 1.0 approaching. On this 5-part Top X, I will share the 50 best games I've played, and explain why you should also play them eventually. As these are only games I've played, for most, heavily, this isn't a fitting best 50 games of all time, so your favorite games may just be ones I haven't played yet. I'm also going to be limiting to one game per explicit series or line unless I feel a second really did something to make it stand out from the series. And compilations and remakes are fair game if I consider them on par or better than the games in their original release. This will keep my favorite long-running series from filling the list. These are the 30th to 21st best games I've played, in my opinion. If you've not seen the previous parts, be sure to go back and check those out. This game is very average when played alone, or in the primary mode. However, when you get multiple people to play City Trial, the game shines so brightly. The proper City Trial is a ton of fun when played together, and even more fun in free run, with made up rules and even just wandering around exploring and looking for Easter eggs. Like all the hidden flowers, or exiting the first invisible wall, and teasing your friends with the Hydra safely behind the wall. Few games create worlds that act as such fulfilling playgrounds. Rare made many of the best platformers of all time, the Donkey Kong Country franchise included. To many players, this trilogy was far superior to the Man in Red, while Mario levels across games and generations are very familiar, with the tiniest gimmicks to shake up the formula. Rare set out to create a game where each level was dedicated to a mechanic or variation of a mechanic, much like Mega Man levels. The levels could have been perfectly flat, and no level would be or feel exactly like another. This left us with incredible, memorable levels, like Bramble Blast, Haunted Hall, Castle Crush, Toxic Tower, Parachute Panic, and Clapper's Cavern. All of those levels were in Donkey Kong Country 2, the game themed after pirates. For me, this is the best installment in a stellar series. It built on the foundation of the original and threw creative new ideas after new ideas. Which isn't to say the third had no incredible levels left to implement. Plus, the music is easily the best in the series. This was an impossible game that happened. It was Ryu, Zero, and a few other Capcom icons known in the West versus stars from one of the most respected and beloved anime studios in Japan. Somehow the West got wind of this game and the uproar was enough Capcom tried localizing it, managing this Heraclean feat, only losing one character, and adding additional characters for the Western audience. Remember how I said possibly the best part of Capcom vs SNK 2 was not knowing who half the roster was? I had that luxury with Capcom vs SNK, having been on the Street Fighter side of the fighting genre. But everybody born from 1980 on outside of Japan had that luxury with this game. These were characters from animes that were last localized in the 60s and 70s. Any brand power came from the Capcom side. I don't watch anime. I mean, I've watched a few animes, but I would watch some of these characters' animes if I knew where to find them dubbed. The game itself is very solid despite having a smaller cast than Capcom vs SNK 2. Playing like a Marvel vs Capcom, it's fun and fast-paced, although the 3-stage single-player boss has a bunch of bull with how you don't regain health and the final form has an unblockable attack that does just short of a full health meter. But you're going to be playing mostly versus, right? Right. Dark Dawn revived one of the most creative RPG franchises with an interesting story that deeply rewarded longtime fans as well as served as a jumping-on point. The already incredible living world felt more alive than ever. The main faults with this game are that its story is incomplete and it had points of no return. Granted, with a glitch you can obtain anything behind a point of no return and escape being trapped, Otherwise, Dark Dawn had some of the most clever puzzles in the series, and it is a crime Mario has gotten about 20 truly mediocre or Pac-Man terrible games since Dark Dawn released, and we still don't have a sequel. Back in the day, all tie-in games ranged from being okay to E.T., except DuckTales made by many of the people who made the Mega Man series. Instead of adapting an episode of the classic DuckTales television series, they made an all-new adventure across levels inspired by the locations visited across various episodes, and bringing in characters from across the series as well. They took the time to understand why everybody loved DuckTales, and created a modified Mega Man game with the spirit of DuckTales. This left players with a solid game for the period that felt like playing new episodes of the cartoon. Not to mention the innovative Pogo Cane mechanic that has inspired so many recent games. Even with minor problems, the game is one everybody should play at some point. Some people were tired of 3D platforming collectathons when Donkey Kong 64 rolled around. I wasn't, and I thoroughly enjoyed Donkey Kong 64 above Super Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie. Donkey Kong 64 was a game with plenty to do, to the point of being refreshingly overwhelming, and it undoubtedly helped inspire the open world genre. Like, say for one, the banana porters making each large level easier to navigate, or the large worlds where you couldn't walk far without finding something to collect or do, which is paradise for any child with ADHD. The multiple playable characters and solid multiplayer was also very welcome for the time. Despite minor problems that hold it from perfection, a refined sequel could be incredible and should happen. The concept behind Custom Robo is brilliant. 1. Give people robots. 2. Let people customize the attacks their robots can do, with virtually no clone parts and exceptional balancing. 3. Let people fight in and develop strategies. It looks like a chaotic 4-person brawler, like Smash Brothers, on an XYZ axis, but it is a very strategic fighting game about taking cover, outsmarting, and out-customizing your opponent. This game was America's first taste, and was slightly watered down, which makes it ideal as someone's first custom robo. The game also has some of the funniest dialogue and memorable characters. I hated Harry the moment I saw him and his over-the-top personality, but at the end, I kind of liked what he brought, but not him. He's the kind of guy you like the idea of, but don't like in practice. And yes, the story actually holds up and is incredibly memorable, once you reach the twists and it becomes serious. This is a game that needs no introduction, but damn it, I'm going to give it one. Few things could be more exciting than Nintendo's huge library of iconic characters coming together. Like, say, if Disney did that. Yeah, right, like that could ever be possible. But really, everybody's going to find a hypothetical crossover more exciting, and for me, you'll see. There's been no Kingdom Hearts or Infinity yet. Smash Brothers could have been almost any genre, and have worked. Maybe not as well, but the idea is a goldmine. I'm surprised and disappointed Nintendo hasn't started milking it hardcore. When you add other gaming icons, put it in HD, and refine the gameplay, you easily have the definitive version. However, the game still missed out on plenty, and made most of the challenges for the single-player mode. God, you know how much I love having to play single-player mode in my multiplayer-focused games to unlock things! Do that and it's automatically 50 out of 5. This game gets a lot of praise for its visuals, which it deserves. It is like playing a cartoon, and few games can connect so deeply emotionally. But thanks to the expressive characters, Wind Waker can. It also included multiplayer. Granted, it could have been implemented much better, but it did move in the right direction of keeping the worlds open and allowing you to choose which dungeon to do at a few points, like a real Zelda game. Oh boy, I crossed a line. Finally, have you heard the music? It's good. It's good stuff. Bomberman was a franchise built on an action and puzzle foundation. When the jump to XYZ came with the N64, Hudson was careful to focus primarily on expanding old design principles into the Z-axis, and to experiment with new puzzles to varying success. In addition, they considered what new mechanics would be necessary or desired to traverse the extra dimension, such as bomb pumping and jumping. Bomberman 64 was a strong progression into the new era of gaming. Then, out of nowhere, Hudson announced a sequel to Bomberman 64. It had a darker tone as well as co-op with a new character who would grow depending on what you fed it. In practice, they executed co-op perfectly and on a level that hasn't been quite matched since. The second player is overall weaker, but will not consume lives or power-ups unless they collect dropped power-ups. The levels are also designed in ways that make the game fun to play with a partner. There are few levels, but they are much longer and divided into rooms in a somewhat nonlinear way, so each one feels like a Zelda dungeon with minor puzzles as well as overarching puzzles that must be solved, and these puzzles aren't, as paint by numbers, obvious as many Zelda games. Oh boy, crossed another line there. Puzzles range from collecting and placing objects to thinking cleverly about what can be destroyed, or how to reach a new location using techniques like bomb jumping, or the new elemental bombs, which feel very much like dungeon items or robot master abilities. Like Mega Man, there are paths you need special bombs to traverse in every level, meaning you'll want to make quick return trips to collect everything. The biggest flaw in the campaign is the levels are a little too long, and the penalty for dying more than 3 times is far too steep for such long levels. It can make some levels almost impossible to finish. This game also introduced many new battle modes. Not all were great or perfectly refined, but it still was fun to experience Hudson expanding the multiplayer component in new and creative ways. If only there was still a chance we'd see these new rules refined with online play, instead of this pachinko machine. Konami! A lot of the games this video had strong multiplayer elements. So episode question, what is your favorite multiplayer game to play? I mentioned how much Smash Bros. Concept is a moneymaker. So how about this video defending and criticizing Amiibo Festival? The ending is actually relevant to what I was just talking about. Or maybe you want to know more about Bomberman 64, the second attack. I've got 2 of those for you. And you don't need a 4th thing, do you? No, I know all of you are capable of clicking my channel name and watching everything I've ever done. Binging, it's the way of the future. You know you want to. Oh wait, I'm totally going to have something to tie into Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. I think. Past Adam, I have no idea what you were talking about. Wait? No? Wait? No? You crazy. You crazy, Past Adam. Oh yeah. Yeah, Adam, you need to take your shirt off for the ladies and record. Now I'm almost tempted to deliberately wait to do that video until this one is up, just so that's taken entirely out of context.